Tonight, terror in the air and on the ground. The investigation into United Flight 328, the outside of the plane on fire, parts crashing to neighborhoods below, one house with a hole in its roof.
You could just feel it, like boom, we started shaking.
The FAA demanding immediate inspections of all United 777s. Desperation in Texas, long lines for supplies, millions still without drinking water, and some with shockingly high energy bills. This man may have to end his retirement to pay off his $16,000 bill. Plus, Senator Ted Cruz now on the front lines after apologizing for his trip to Mexico. A wrenching milestone today. 500,000 Americans have now been killed by COVID.
It's historic. People will be talking about this decades and decades and decades from now.
Major vaccine sites shut down due to weather delays. How the White House plans to get more out this week. Plus, starting today, one country requires proof of vaccination to enter a gym or hotel. Will that come here? Fighting on, members of the Little Rock Nine who defied hate to integrate schools speak out why their mission of equality in education isn't over. Plus, a reason to celebrate the life-changing news that sent this sheriff's deputy dad jumping for joy.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. Today, we crossed a threshold that would have seemed unfathomable just a year ago. 500,000 Americans, 500,000 people killed by COVID. We'll spend time tonight reflecting on that toll and the individual lives lost. But we begin with that terrifying story in and above Colorado. We're hearing from passengers in the plane who saw this out their window, an engine on fire. And we're hearing from those down below who saw this out their window, giant metal chunks falling from the sky. And late today, United Airlines saying it is grounding 24 of its planes. Megan Fitzgerald is in Colorado with the latest.
Mayday, mayday.
Tonight, new questions into what caused the terror in the skies.
Aircraft just experienced a engine failure, need a turn immediately.
Well, it's terrifying. You could just feel it, like boom, and you could hear it, and we started shaking.
An engine failure on a United 777 from Denver en route to Hawaii. 241 people on board.
So the engine was on fire and there was smoke coming out of it. So I told my wife that the engine was gone, and she got up and looked out the window and was a little bit panic-stricken.
Panic and fear turning into relief.
Yay!
The plane landed safely, but tonight, a source familiar with the investigation tells NBC News that a fan blade inside the engine broke off. Half of another was gone.
And one of those parts separates. It can cause a chain reaction inside that engine nacelle that can really do some damage.
Aviation experts say one of the biggest questions is why the exterior structure of the engine flew off.
This is a bit troubling because the structure should still remain attached even if you have a fan blade failure.
It's just dropping pieces.
That failure caused debris from the plane to scatter throughout several neighborhoods outside of Denver.
We looked up and there was a ton of black stuff falling out of the sky. And at first it looked like confetti.
All of a sudden I heard a big boom and the house shook.
Parts scattered across fields and streets, even causing damage to some homes.
I'm going like, what is that? So I get up and look at it, and I see right away it's the front end of an airplane engine.
NTSB investigators scouring the area, collecting evidence, trying to solve the mystery of the malfunction and prevent it from happening again.
United just releasing a statement saying that they will be temporarily removing 24 of the Boeing 777 aircrafts. They say they've been in touch with regulators at the NTSB as well as the FAA to determine if any additional steps need to be taken. Kate?
All right, Megan, thank you. Now to our other big story, the desperation growing in Texas following those deadly winter storms. Millions are still without drinking water tonight. The temperatures are finally rising, but so is outrage over absurdly high electric bills. Morgan Chesky reports from Dallas.
Tonight, a Texas-sized thaw flooding the state with one problem after another. Crews rushing to fix burst water lines as many try to find emergency supplies.
It's devastating, we shouldn't have to live like this,
Gilbert Gomez, one of 5 million now forced to either boil or find bottled water. Tonight, Houston lifting their boil water notice as the capital city of Austin enters day 5. Today, the governor addressing another widespread problem.
Texans who have suffered through days of freezing cold without power should not be subjected to skyrocketing energy bills due to a spike in the energy market.
Now restricting energy companies from cutting off customers due to non-payment, essentially placing all bills on hold.
This is the retirement home.
Correct. But it could be too late for Texans like Scott Willoughby, who signed up for Gritty Energy after they advertised wholesale prices, not knowing his rate could vary with the market. So when power supply went down from the storm, his typically $200 bill took off.
When it was all said and done, what was the damage?
$16,798, something like that.
And this was not a bill, this was withdrawn.
This was withdrawn straight from my account.
By the time the Vietnam vet could switch providers, he had already dipped into retirement savings.
It's been a bad situation, and the financial burden on top of it just compounds it.
NBC News reached out to Gritty for comment, but has not heard back. Willoughby not alone, joining millions of Texans in need of help. In Houston, some accepted water from Senator Ted Cruz, who shared these photos just days after facing fierce backlash from a mid-freeze flight to Cancun. One famous Texan doing her part, Beyonce, whose website now reads, "If you're in Texas, you can apply for assistance."
Morgan joins us now from Dallas. Morgan, when will power be restored there?
Yeah, Kate, some hopeful news tonight. Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying that about 30,000 people statewide still without power. However, full restoration should happen either tonight or sometime tomorrow. Kate?
That is good news. Morgan, thank you. The Biden administration says it's moving to deliver more COVID vaccine after those storms throughout the country delayed 6 million COVID vaccine doses. Kelly O'Donnell is at the White House with the administration's new timeline.
Today at Delaware's Dover Speedway, this slow crawl of cars is a race to vaccinate.
We have to get all these people their second doses.
Delayed by bad weather, this new drive-through vaccination site will deliver 18,000 second dose shots over 6 days, set up with help from the federal government.
We can get the facilities here and build from the ground up to make something like this happen.
Today, long lines at a vaccination center in Brooklyn, New York.
It was rather daunting to see such a long line, and you walk and you walk and you walk.
The city says its supply of first dose shots fell to fewer than 1,000 this morning. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he is pushing the White House.
New York needed more vaccines. New York needed communication with the federal government.
The Biden administration says distribution is rebounding after severe weather hampered delivery of 6 million doses.
We've been able to get about 2 million of those 6 million doses out. We expect to rapidly catch up this week, fill that backlog.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says vaccine delays are painful but can be overcome.
It is a setback because you'd like to see the steady flow of vaccine getting out there to get into people's arms. But we can play pretty good catch up.
Tomorrow, the president's COVID relief plan moves forward in the House. The $1.9 trillion package includes billions for vaccines, schools, the unemployed, and small businesses. But House Republicans say it's too expensive and a giveaway to progressives.
We're going to pass $1.9 trillion of additional spending to bail out failed states, to raise the minimum wage. What does that have to do with COVID?
Kelly, who will get the checks as part of this plan and how much?
Well, lawmakers have just put that in writing, Kate. $1,400 for adults and children qualifying by income. So for individuals earning up to $75,000 a year, for couples earning up to $150,000. So if you do the math, a family of 4 could receive $5,600. And it appears that it will take a few more weeks for this to work its way through Congress before those checks would go out, assuming this does get passed and signed by the president. Kate?
All right, Kelly O'Donnell at the White House for us. Kelly, thank you. Now back to that number so large, it's almost impossible to comprehend. Today, we marked 500,000 American lives lost to COVID. That's as many people as the entire population of Atlanta passing away in one single year. But behind each number is a life, each one a painful hole in someone's heart. A beloved nurse who inspired her colleagues.
Thank you.
A devoted father.
We hope all your dreams come true and you live happily ever after.
A music teacher.
I love to sing. It's one of those things that changes students' lives.
A Detroit bus driver.
You gotta give it
yeah. Grandfathers who danced with their kids. Some dancing even in their 90s. A middle school librarian who always kept in touch.
I called you back. Call me back. I love you.
A football coach and mentor.
I'm only 33 years old right now. Well, all right, 33 plus. But it's been a glorious year. And just 2020, I have good vision for this. Get it? 2020 vision.
A proud Marine who served his country for 25 years.
Happy birthday to all the Marines, past Marines, active Marines, wherever they are, in harm's way.
A high school junior and cancer survivor. An educator who inspired those going off into the world.
Be resilient in life when there's disappointment or failure. Do your best work no matter who's watching. Stay true to all that you believe in.
A loving son with so much ahead of him. A grandmother who always kept the faith.
From all alone, yes, I'm leaning, yes, I'm leaning on the everlasting arms.
Just some of the 500,000 lives lost. We'll be right back. We're back with a question. Would you share your private health information in order to get back into a gym or a hotel? Starting today, one country is betting on a kind of vaccine passport. It's an app to prove someone is fully vaccinated. But could it work here? Sarah Harmon has details.
Tonight, Israel is reopening, but not for everyone. Certain places, including gyms, hotels, and swimming pools, are only accessible for the fully vaccinated and COVID recovered.
I'm so happy I can go back to the gym right now.
Shelley Mayshorm has waited months for this day, eagerly downloading the government's new Green Pass app.
And I put my ID and my phone number, and after I do all of that, it checks if I'm entitled to have it or not.
It's a sort of vaccine passport linked to Israel's centralized healthcare system.
And we just came to get a breather after a year that we didn't sleep out of the house.
At this hotel, guests line up with their passport apps out.
May I have a look at your vaccination certificates? Fantastic. Welcome to Tel Aviv.
Thank you so much.
As new data out of Israel shows, the Pfizer vaccine prevents 98.9% of hospitalizations and deaths. Critics point out that although nearly half of Israelis have received at least one dose, the country has supplied far fewer shots to Palestinians. Around the world, a number of countries announcing plans to roll out vaccine passports, including Sweden, Denmark, Bahrain, and Cyprus.
Do you think we're going to see a system like this in the U.S.?
I think people might object to being required to show a pass to go into a basketball game or a restaurant or a movie theater.
Back at the gym, after 3 lockdowns, Shelley is cautiously optimistic.
I'm happy. I just hope it lasts this time for good.
A hope the whole country shares. Sarah Harmon, NBC News.
Still ahead, the cost of gas is going up, how much it's jumped in just a week and why. Also, decades after this fateful day, we talked to the courageous students who fought against school segregation, what they are now saying about the future of education. The Coast Guard made a daring ice rescue today in Cleveland. A group of about 10 people was walking just offshore on frozen Lake Erie when the ice broke, stranding them on 2 separate ice floes. After an hour, the rescue teams were able to get them all safely back to shore. Heading out this week, you may be noticing the rising cost of gasoline. The national average is now $2.63. That's a jump from $2.50 just a week ago. The hike is blamed on those storms across the Gulf Coast, which forced refineries to close. Gas prices could rise even higher until they're all back online. Tonight, we're kicking off our week-long NBC News series, State of the Struggle. It's a look at efforts to address racial inequality in America. Tonight, Rahema Ellis tackles the divide in education, talking to members of the Little Rock Nine to discuss progress since school desegregation and what still needs to change.
Today, Little Rock Central High School is a landmark of America's struggle for equal education.
We have made strides.
We have a lot of multicultural clubs.
In the fall of 1957, this was ground zero in the battle over where kids could be educated.
It was not anticipated that we would be treated as equals, and we were not.
A mob confronted black students chosen to desegregate this Arkansas school.
What do you remember about that first day?
How terrified I was.
There was actually some talk among the Little Rock police who were that day protecting us, sort of protecting us, whether or not they would allow the mob to hang one of us and save 8.
Terrence Roberts and Elizabeth Eckford were among the black students who became known as the Little Rock Nine.
Why did you want to be a part of this venture?
I wanted something very different for myself and other people like me.
I think their stories and stories like that are what encouraged me to become a teacher.
Congresswoman Johanna Hayes taught for 15 years before she decided politics was the path to change.
Was there equity in education when you were teaching?
I remember my first year of teaching, I had 4 textbooks for a class of 29 students. And these are the types of investments that we have to make if we care about our children's education.
But now, nearly 70 years after segregated schools were outlawed, the number of mostly minority schools has more than tripled in recent years. Housing segregation, income inequality, abandoned federal policies on desegregation, and some families having the option to choose the schools they want their children to attend all contribute to the state of education today.
Kids who live in the most affluent districts have access to more resources. And I think COVID, the period that we're in right now, has only illuminated those equity gaps.
Hayes is now fighting for change in and outside of classrooms.
Make sure that those community-based services, things like housing and food security, are addressed, mental health services, so that kids come to school ready to learn.
But back at Central High, these students are still optimistic.
All I can do is hope and work myself to gain more equity.
I'm hopeful that there will be change, but I'm not sure how long that change will take.
Changing the future by learning from the past. Rahema Ellis, NBC News.
When we come back, the life-changing surprise that had this dad jumping for joy. There's good news tonight about fighting for your dreams and the joyous reaction from one dad when his daughter revealed she was on the way to hers.
It's too loud. I can't.
It all began with a popular challenge on TikTok earlier this month.
Yesterday I was busy.
Okay. 22-year-old Victoria Glosson tried to get her sheriff's deputy dad, Barry, to guess what she was whispering.
I'm cancer-free.
Why don't you write it down? I can't understand.
I'm cancer-free.
And when he finally understood...
Did you have your PET scan?
The video, viewed more than 9 million times, captured the joyous end to the North Carolina nursing students' battle against stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
It took me a minute to register. And when she said that she's cancer-free, I lost it. It was awesome. Best news that a parent can ever receive.
It was a moment nearly 2 years in the making. Victoria was diagnosed in 2019, right in the middle of nursing school. She chose to become a nurse, inspired by her mom, Samita, and big sister Jessica. Both are frontline health workers.
Like, the first thing I thought of was school. How am I going to do school?
Determined to make it through, she never gave up.
She says, I am not going to let this cancer take over my life. I am not going to let it change me and what I'm wanting to do, and I want to be a nurse.
Her family by her side every step of the way. The community rallying too, throwing her a drive-by parade after a tough round of treatment. Victoria's perseverance paid off. She graduated last May, now with a new mission to help others.
It makes me look at my patients and take care of them differently because I know what it's like to be on the patient side of things now.
This family of heroes now celebrating a hard-fought victory.
It's definitely united us as a family, and we have learned that those small moments do matter. You know, you don't take that for granted.
Victoria says she wants to help care for COVID patients once her immune system has recovered and she gets the vaccine. And one last note tonight, my latest conversation for The Drink with Kate Snow is with actress Mindy Kaling. We talked about early rejections in her career and why her time at The Office was pivotal. That's at NBCnews.com/The Drink, or you can find it on the NBC Nightly News podcast. I'm Kate Snow. For all of us here at NBC News, stay safe and have a good night.